Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the T.H.O. Movie Reviews podcast, the show where we bring you passionate, honest, and insightful film criticism.
And sensual, too, sometimes.
Where the hell did that come from?
Great start, man.
Somewhere deep within, I assume.
Moving on. Not that I wouldn't love to continue this thread.
I'm
your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and I'm here today to review Avengers Infinity War. Just a word to the wise, we're going to talk about everything that happens in this movie, including the end. So if you have not seen the movie, you better shut this off right now, because what I have to say right now gives it all away. I know this is going to be hard for people to hear, but on April 27th of this year, half the fucking universe was wiped out. But there's good news. There's good news. The three of us were among the half that survived to review this movie. So that brings me, I got some of my wonderful colleagues here. First up, we have Mo Shaunette. Mo, you're wearing a Black Panther t-shirt. I think that's very appropriate for the occasion.
It felt terribly apropos, as the saying goes. Yeah.
And by the way, R.I.P. T'Challa. Oh wait, Black Panther 2 is in the works.
Oh wait, Black Panther just made $1 billion and is not going anywhere.
Technically not announced, but I mean, obviously.
No,
like, they would be dumb.
He did announce it. He said, we'll do it when Ryan Coogler wants to do it. That's what he said.
Okay, if we go
if
by
Ryan
that
Coogler
logic.
Wants to do
You
it.
gotta remember, they were also gonna let Edgar Wright do Ant-Man when he wanted to do it. See how well that worked. Well, it still worked out, just not for Edgar Wright.
That brings me the
man
man
to
whose
make
voice.
Baby Driver. He's all right.
Yeah.
The man whose voice you're hearing right now is Maxwell Meyers, and he's also got a pretty damn good shirt on. He's
Mr.
black and
Fancy
orange.
Pants.
Max, how you doing today?
Good, I got this for free.
I just noticed the Pac-Man belt buckle.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite belt buckles.
That is amazing.
I'm traveling with quite the fashion style. The nice Pumas, the loudly printed shirt from the 60s, the Pac-Man belt buckle, and a gallon jug of water that's half drank already.
We missed our calling, didn't we? This is, shouldn't we all be on a
Shouldn't have a fashion show.
Yeah.
We're ingenues.
And just for the folks at home, Ben is wearing a lovely salmon-esque colored button-up shirt over a yellow Sesame Street shirt. It's actually pretty cool, and a plaid short. It's quite nice.
Very observant attention to detail. And by the way, I appreciate you calling it salmon, but don't worry, it's just me. You can call it pink if you want. I'm not ashamed.
I mean, it's not super pink. I have a pinker shirt that I just got this weekend that I almost wore, but...
Well, getting into Avengers Infinity War...
Getting back on track.
Yes, the fashion in the... No, I'm kidding.
I have a question. Max has a question. They're kind of going to merge, so when I finish, I need you to add yours on there, Max.
Okay.
My question is the boring one. What did you guys think of the film overall? And...
what did you think of Thanos?
Mo, let's start with you. What did you think of the film overall? What did you think of Purple Josh Brolin?
What did I think of the movie? I liked it. I had fun. I'm apprehensive about movies with like something like this where the attention is like, oh, we have a cast of thousands, because last time it happened we got Batman v Superman, where they just kept on adding character after character after character, and it among other things buckled under its own weight. So this one, I wasn't expecting it to knock my socks off. I wasn't expecting my life to be changed, and it met my expectations. It was fun, big spectacle, not terribly deep, but entertaining, and I liked it, and I had fun. Thanos, he works. I think a lot of other people are finding depth in his character that I'm not exactly seeing. Maybe I need to see the movie again. But I think he works as the villain they need him to be, as this universe-ending threat.
He's the hero that the MCU deserves. No, that's already getting twisted. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, someone described him as sort of a hero from a DC movie where he fetishizes his own martyrdom, where it's like he's the guy who has to make the tough decisions. He's the hero the universe deserves, but not the one it needs. It's like after Superman kills General Zod or Batman tries to kill Superman. This is the guy this is someone who's cut from the same cloth, and it works for me. They realize him really well through the effects and through Brolin's performance. He's a compelling character. He's arguably the main character of the movie since he goes through the arc, like not just going through a character arc, but going through the same or at least a similar character arc that we've seen in a lot of other Marvel movies.
Does anyone know was he mocap?
I think he was. Yeah.
Okay.
He actually called up Ruffalo to see how he was like, should I do this? And he goes, it's one of the weirdest, most intriguing acting experiences of your life. He goes, and it's insane to see the final product. And he goes, first day, and Mark Ruffalo goes, all right, let's get this over with. And he's like, I'm so done with this. First day, he sees Brolin. That's what he tells him.
Is that why he's not Hulk for like almost all the movie because he just didn't want to do it anymore?
Oh, I assume the Russos probably were.
I know there's a character reason for it. Just I'm wondering if that informed it at all.
Sure. I believe eventually they were nice to him.
Max, you saw this movie 3 times.
Yes, I did.
I have a feeling that means that you maybe liked it.
Well, I mean, I was planning on seeing it 3 times. I had my own method of seeing it, as I said before. My favorite method was watching it drunk, but it was also my 3rd time. And when you're a little drunk, time moves a little faster, so it just felt like the movie went by a little bit quicker. And on your 3rd time, I think you're ready for that. Day 3 in a row, watching the same movie, you're like, I'm okay if this goes by a little faster. But I really, really liked it a lot. It's definitely better than Age of Ultron, which I was a little nervous about. Like, when you have, like as Mo said, like when you have such a huge cast of characters, like they had a bigger cast than the original Avengers, and it was really not well juggled, but I think the Russo brothers did a fantastic job juggling these characters, keeping the pace really well. I feel like the amount of time we spend with the characters we do, there's a reason for it. If you see it at the end, most of the characters we spend our time with end up not making it by the end of the movie, which is appropriate because we have a whole other movie to get through. Why not? Like, and that was a smart plan right there. It's like, we're at 2 movies, we're gonna get rid of half of these people, let's spend some time with the people who might not be here next time. And
notice how pretty much, with the exception of Samuel L. Jackson, some of the only people who didn't die were the original stars of the first Avengers.
Exactly,
yeah.
And I think that was very deliberate.
It was like the Russos are like, we got too many fucking characters. Clear the table so we don't have to deal with those damn Guardians.
Oh my goodness! Well, and I think it's good. I mean, the only Guardian left is Groot, and I guess
Rocket.
Wait,
Rocket. Sorry,
Rocket is left.
Rocket is left. But here's
left.
the thing: someone pointed this out online. Groot can regrow himself from like just branches of himself.
So dust will be no
That's
problem.
That's what the handle of Thor's new weapon is made from, is Groot's arm.
Oh shit, yeah.
So we're going to go through Baby Groot again.
Oh my gosh.
We're not going to go through Baby Groot again.
I don't think so. But I think
Thanos?
I think Thanos was awesome. I think, again, I think we were all paying very close attention to Thanos because Marvel has a very bad habit of making bad Marvel villains.
You say that, but we've gone through
like Malekith? You didn't like...
We've gone through 5 movies
Ronan
now with really great villains.
Well, 5, I would say...
Ego...
no, not
Vulture.
Ego. Ego was terrible.
Ego was alright.
He was...
Vulture was good.
Vulture...
No, I would not go that far.
I would say Vulture was good, especially with that twist you get.
No.
Hela?
No. Oh, no way. Hela was so one-dimensional and boring. I mean, it's like, the only thing interesting about that character was it was Cate Blanchett. You look at that character on the page, it's like, oh, she wants to destroy, exciting! It's like, no!
I have a feeling I know what Ben's opinion is going to be in just a minute.
I'll just get into my opinion then.
Well, hold on, let me finish.
Oh, you get more than Thanos?
I think he's great. I think we've had some better Marvel villains, but a lot of our villains end up dying if they're okay, and then if they're not, well, they all die. They die even if they're bad. Malekith is the worst. I mean, I watched my way through all the Marvel movies once more before getting into this one, and so right at the beginning when they snap Loki's neck, I really think he's probably gone this time. That's a big move to make. Like,
I mean,
Tom Hiddleston was he was done.
I think a lot. Well, I think a lot.
Idris Elba was done.
I think a lot.
Yeah, you see, he tweeted, "Oh, I'm going to Miss Heimdall." It's like, no, you won't.
I'm sure you are, but you're also
excited that you don't have to come. You're not contractually obligated to do anything.
Also, they killed a black dude first. Like, come on, Avengers.
I think it's a bold move to get rid of Loki because he's been one of the best characters, and I think they realize that most of these original Avengers aren't going to be coming back. Give him one more great send off. So I think it's going to be awesome. But Ben, tell me what you thought of this fun movie and this really great villain that most of us seem to like.
You're putting words in my mouth, man. That's all I can say.
Are they about to spill back out though?
I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it at all. And Thanos is I'll get into a lot of the reasons why I didn't like it later. But Thanos is one of the number one reasons. If a superhero is only as good as their supervillain, yikes! Oh my god! I mean, this is I really respond to what you said, Mo, like about like people finding depth in him that maybe isn't there. I agree. It is so not there. It's like they have like menacing Josh Brolin, like, you know, like I'm gonna balance the universe, and like, oh, we'll tack on that he's sad about Gamora to make him seem profound and deep. And it's like, no, I am not buying it. And it's like, he to me was like a black hole of nothingness in the center, like sucking the gravitas out of it. I mean, it's like, I mean, you gotta invest, you gotta believe, you know, like Black Panther. You know why one of the many reasons why Black Panther works? Because the conflict between Killmonger and T'Challa isn't just about, you know, destroying the universe or smashing things. It's an ideological conflict, a conflict between, you know, basically an isolationist and a guy who is kind of like a sort of interesting, like, warped view of globalism that's like rooted in his personal trauma. And you get to Josh Brolin, and it's like, it just, the depth like felt so like, you know, like we're trying to be deep. Like it did not feel like earned. You know, it was like the opposite of like the Spider-Man 2 thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna meet Doc Ock as a family man, as his wife, we're gonna get to know him and like him. Whereas Thanos, it's like, you know, he's evil, he's scary. It's like, oh, we better like slide in something later to, you know, make him complex. It's like, yeah, it just, I feared he wouldn't work, and he did not. He didn't do it for me.
I will say I half disagree with you because I don't want to go with half agree because that makes it sound like I more agree.
So I half convinced you.
Oh no,
that's
I will say because I will say this because I do agree with Mose. I think people are looking for more depth within Thanos that actually exists. But
well, like because like A.O. Scott in the New York Times said, like, you know, oh, he wants to destroy the universe on Malthusian principles. It's like, what the hell?
But
like, you know, I mean,
but this is the thing: is what I really like about Brolin is the performance. He comes with the title of the Mad Titan, and I think it would have been so easy to go so big with this performance.
That is a huge cackling supervillain.
Exactly. I was like, I think he could have been so over the top, but he's so cool and calm. Now, but this is the thing. His idea is a bad idea, only in the sense that, like, it's just his idea. Like, that's the thing. He's just like, I'm doing this. Why? Because it's good for you. Nobody wants it. It doesn't matter. I think it's right, and therefore I'm going to do it. The only difference is he has the tools to do it. And I honestly think I don't think they slid the Gamora thing in there. I don't think they were like, here you go, we're going to make you feel bad for it. I think they had to kill someone for emotional
but
someone who's totally not dead.
But if they're gonna,
I don't know. That's the one thing.
But here's the other thing.
Anybody who faded away into dust, I'm honestly like probably coming back.
Absolutely.
Anybody who did not,
except Spider-Man, they can make a Spider-Man sequel without Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. But anybody who isn't faded away, I'm really more dubious about. That's why I'm like. I mean, if you look at Saldana's production schedule, James Cameron wants her for 4 more Avatar movies that he wants to film back to back to back.
But he's gonna be probably into post-production by 2019 when they start shooting.
That's probably true. So
and we'll have a break between like Avatar 2 and Avatar 4.
So I will say this: I will say that I don't think we should put depth into Thanos that isn't necessarily there. But I will say I really appreciate the performance he gave us, and I do think. It's also harder because I think to think of this movie in context, I think there's one thing, a little twist. That I was like, what was the thing that blew your mind most about this movie? And I'm like, and after my third time, it was this movie only takes place over a span of 1 or 2 days. That's it. Like, because if you notice Thanos,
Yeah,
after he
true.
kills Gamora, he comes up to Scarlet Witch. He goes, trust me, I understand. You wouldn't believe the day I've had. And if you think, if you're thinking about just like the events, like and you piece it all together, you're like, oh yeah, couldn't be more than 3 days tops. Like, and that's how fast this movie goes. That's so long, and that's why I'm like he kind of does very little, but how much do you really do in 3 days? Like, how much emotional range do you show within those 3 days? And I think it's just giving him room to do more, and I think they've laid some good groundwork. And at the very least, given me a compelling villain. Even though sometimes, again, I don't like when the villain's motivation is, I'm going to do this because I think it's right. And everyone's like, that's a dumb idea. That's why we're going to fight you.
We should move on to our next question, but
Yes.
I do want to say, and this I want to bring up a flaw that's a flaw in this movie, but to be honest, it's also a flaw in some of my own personal favorite super movies, including the original Spider-Man films. But like this whole idea, Thanos believes that he's going to do this awful genocidal thing for the greater good, and he's going to wipe out half the universe because he's talking about overpopulation, all these crises that he thinks it's worth going to like extreme measures to solve. And the movie quite rightly insists that he is wrong. That you can't. That's not a solution. It's not a workable solution to essentially take people's free will away by deciding half of you can't exist. But here's the problem: the movie doesn't really engage with the idea that there are problems. There is overpopulation. There are all these difficult things, and it's kind of like it's sort of the opposite again of Black Panther, where it's like T'Challa is able to sort of look at Killmonger and say, well, there's something to what he's saying. We're going to have to reach out to the world in a bigger way, not the way he wanted, in a more diplomatic way, but we have to kind of take what he said to heart, and I feel like I don't see this like in Infinity War. I feel like it's like they're kind of tacking on this depth that's not there. Yes, Mo.
Just one thing real quick about Black Panther. A lot of people coming up saying the idea of that we get I'm totally backtracking. So again, we don't stay focused on these things.
This is completely focused. Can we talk about Ocean's 8 next?
People talk about it at the end of the movie, kind of he takes Killmonger's advice, and it's like, no, he takes Nakia's advice because she's talking about global outreach in terms of sharing medical technology and advancements in all these fields, and Killmonger was just about violence, and that's it.
I see what you mean. I do see what you mean. He does take Nakia's advice. But he didn't make the choice after talking to Nakia. He makes the choice after fighting with Killmonger. I think the battle with Killmonger, helps him see the wisdom in Nakia's advice, because it's kind of like a wake up call. I think.
But that was my own thing.
I hear what you're saying. You are right. He doesn't. You're right. It would be foolish to say he literally takes Killmonger's advice, because Killmonger's like, let's just send weapons everywhere. That's
violence.
Absolutely, yeah.
I will say, there's just one little tack on. I did see this great article. It was the title, Avengers has one main plot hole that would have fixed everything. And then it was just, instead of killing half the universe, why not just double the resources? And I go, really? That's it? I was like, if you go by that logic, then we could fix every movie with a villain. How about instead of doing this, you do something productive? And I was like, and also, the point is that the resources are finite. Just because you double it doesn't mean they stay doubled. I felt like someone was reaching for straws.
That's not what I think the main plot hole is, but we'll get to what I think it is later. And it's not what you think.
I don't know
what not what you think. I think. Let's talk about the Russos. This is the third Marvel film directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. The first one, The Winter Soldier, was the first Marvel film the three of us reviewed together, actually, way back. And
oh my god!
Wait, was that the first Marvel movie we reviewed?
Yeah, it was.
I had a crazy bad flu at the time.
Right? Yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this feels so very full circle.
This is a very different.
Did we do Civil War?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
okay. We were all very underwhelmed by it.
Okay.
But it's actually gotten better. I was underwhelmed, but we'll get into that in a minute.
But yeah, I mean, let's start with you this time, Max. How would you compare this to the other two films, The Winter Soldier and Civil War, that the Russos directed?
I think it's hard to use Winter Soldier as a jumping off point. I think when they got that job, they came into it going, I'm going to do just a really good job. And Marvel's like, here's some money. And they're like, do a good job. And I'm like, cool. And they're like, Marvel's like, wow, that was a great job.
I like your version of Hollywood better than the real one.
Yeah. And they're like, well, this is because Marvel seems a little nicer in some ways, at least the stories they feed me.
Pragmatic, I would say. Maybe
That's
also, no sexual misconduct scandals that we know of yet. And
so far,
in this day and age, that is to be
commended.
I mean, Downey got his scandals out of the way back in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Crossing fingers. I think it's hard. So I think they were like, here you go. They're like, all right, you made a great movie. They're like, all right, make the next movie. And then they were like, they're like, that was like the real test. They're like, we want it to be Civil War. And so when I first saw Civil War, I was a little underwhelmed because I was like, we're calling the Civil War, and how big it was in the comics, it just felt so small with these little characters. So, and I was like, at the time, I didn't think it was well balanced enough. And then when going back, after seeing all the movies that ends up following it, and then coming back and watching, again, coming back to the beginning, working our way forward back to it, it was a lot better than I remembered. The action sequences in it are amazing. It was like the Russos were like, all right, we have more money, let's do some really cool stuff. And I can see, but they did handle the balancing of the characters really well. And
so how would you rank Infinity War against Winter Soldier and Civil War?
Well, I think Winter Soldier is one of the top two best Marvel movies made. It maybe the three, I don't know. Infinity War and against Civil War, though, I think Infinity War is better, only because I'm way more impressed. I didn't think they handled this small amount of characters very well the first time, so I was nervous going into this one. Again, I changed my opinion going back into this one. But then I felt how they balanced these characters and the choices they decided to make to do this they did a great job. And also, up until the Monday before they released the movie, only 3 to 4 cast members had the full version of the script. Everyone else, they're like, does any of you know if you guys live? They're like, we'll find out tonight, I guess. And then they were on Kimmel. They were all talking like they had a handful. Downey was like, it was me. I had a full script. I knew what was going on. It was him, Captain America, Pom Clementif, and Benedict Cumberbatch. So far, the only ones that have actually come out, they're like, I had a full script, and all of them are like, I just had to bother the producers until they finally gave it to me. But I think they did a great job. That was the most impressive part. I was like, this is so well balanced. And again, the choice to spend time with the characters that are going to be gone for a multitude of reasons, while also moving the plot along at a great pace. The score was great. I think everything about this was pretty wonderful. And just, again, I'm not saying this is the best movie I've seen this year, but it's a really for how big it is, I think it was really well done. And it could have gone so south.
Mo?
Comparing to, it's tough to compare because just Infinity War is such a different animal than like the Captain America movies.
Well, what do you think is? I mean, I know this might seem like an obvious question, but I think it's interesting to know. I mean, what could you just talk about some of the differences because they're pretty striking.
It's just in terms of Infinity Wars it's a fireworks show. Like you're here for the spectacle. You're here for the noise and the lights and the characters and all that stuff. And and mostly like surface level stuff with the characters. It's all informed. It all makes sense. But it's mostly just them like sharing witty banter and making jokes and rubbing up against each other because that's what Avengers movies do. It really feels like this was more than anything else. Infinity War feels informed by Age of Ultron because they made Avengers and it was the same thing. It was a big fireworks show. It was a big party. And then they made they made Age of Ultron and they look back. They made a more introspective story. They tried to do something where they look into the characters, they find the flaws, they find the shortcomings, and people didn't respond to that as well because that's not what these sort of crossovers are supposed to be. They're supposed to be just big and noisy and fun.
Except me, I'm alone that I liked Age of Ultron.
I like
Better
Age of
than both
Ultron
them,
too, but
actually.
I agree that there's a lot of flaws in it.
Oh, yeah.
See,
No-
when I
no
first saw
question,
Age
yeah.
of Ultron, I really liked it, and then going back, I'm like, they're right. There's definitely some problems here.
Yeah.
So I think Screen Junkies really help point that out.
And then you go back to then they did Civil War, and that felt like the more introspective one, and that worked, and it kind of succeeded because they had their cake and they ate it too. They had the airport fight, which is a big, loud spectacle, but they also have the fight with Cap and Tony and Bucky, and that's just nasty and gritty, and it's well shot and it's interesting to watch, but it's not fun because they're tearing each other apart. And then you go to Infinity War, and it's just more and more of the first Avengers. It's the big show. But I think what the Russos are good at, it's not just directing action, which they are, obviously, but they can root it in character. That's why I think that Thanos sacrificing Gamora, that's a necessary beat, because not only because like we've set that up in the Guardians movies, and you kind of need the Guardians to have some emotional investment in this story, but because it does ground him to some degree. It's Thanos is not just this completely foreign entity. He's not just this black ball of evil, or purple ball of evil, I should say, flying through space. He has pathos. He doesn't just have an ethos. He has emotions, and he cares about people. He legitimately is doing this because he believes in it, not just because he's like, without his affection for Gamora, it really would just feel like he was programmed to be the villain, and there would be no depth. And I think for me, that pays off. It does feel consistent with the Russo brothers' other work. I would like to see what they do outside of Marvel now.
Yeah, well, they started their own company. They're doing their own
they
thing.
should. I bet you they're making $1 bajillion right now.
I know they're going to do the next Avengers movie, and Marvel will bring them back to do any other movie they want.
Not ever again.
Like, if they want to do a friggin' Howard the Duck movie, I would be there for that.
I bet you they'd let them.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see like a Winter Soldier movie where Howard the Duck goes on the run. You know, I mean, it's just like imagine like fugitive Howard the Duck like on his motorcycle with Scarlett Johansson.
Why is she there?
Because she was in Winter Soldier. She was on the run with him.
Okay.
She's on the run with Cap. She can be on the
So
run with Howard.
you just want the Winter Soldier, but we replace Captain America with Howard the Duck.
Yeah. Tell me that doesn't sound great.
Yeah, duh.
What else? I mean, what is that if not?
Now here's what I would want. I would want like Howard the Duck, but they like in the comics they jokingly made him a politician, where he was a representative of the All Night Party, and just have it be like Veep or The Thick of It, or like an Armando Iannucci story, where it's just or The West Wing or something. We're just walking and talking about politics, and one of the characters is a duck, and his girlfriend is a porn star.
Oh my gosh.
Give it to me now.
Make it happen, Marvel.
I
I don't know if they're gonna do it, because Howard the Duck was very inspired by Donald Duck, and now that Disney like owns Marvel, that feels like
Perversion.
Yeah.
Disney will never
It's
let
like incest.
Like,
That's what it is.
do
Duck
Howard
incest.
the Duck, but do not mention our duck.
Yeah.
Our duck is pristine. Even though he never wears pants.
The Russos.
Yes.
The 3 Marvel movies. So I think when I look back at the action movies from the past decade or so, like there's a really interesting trend. You know, when I think of the really great ones, I think of movies like Inception, like Fury Road, like Gravity, like Dunkirk, pretty much anything where there's a race against the clock, you know, where there's not just action, but there's tension, you know, there's suspense, it's real, you know, edge of your seat Hitchcocky and stuff. And the Russos really tapped into that well, I think, with the Winter Soldier. Like, I thought it was such a brilliant idea. Like, kind of the risk with any superhero movie is that you kind of descend into sort of like meaningless pyrotechnics, which may be big and may be loud, but like aren't actually exciting because there's not actual tension. And then they had a genius idea, or well, maybe Marcus and McFeely, you know, had the idea in the script, but the Russos executed it. There was this idea, you know, let's make it a fugitive story. Let's have him be on the run, pursued by these forces, so the audience is worried about his safety, and there's a goal that has to be achieved by a certain time because, there's a secret Nazi death cult, hidden inside a government agency, about to blow everything up. It's
that movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah,
it's still my favorite.
I feel like I wish there was like more of that in like Infinity War, because this I thought was like kind of getting into the sort of like just large pyrotechnics, the large scale stuff, and I felt like a lot was happening, and I was entertained by a lot of what was happening, but I didn't like actually have that like feeling of like being really engaged and in suspense, and there was a lot going on, and to be honest, I think there was too much going on. Like, at the end, like in Wakanda, when you got them fighting those CGI creatures, so much was happening, and the editing was so fast, and it was all kind of just a blur. I literally could not tell you what those creatures looked like. You know what I mean? And I think that's an issue.
Were they on all four legs?
Big, like, weird forearm homunculus creatures.
Yeah.
They were Machamps.
There you go. But it's like, and you think about like other,
which is a really bad team, by the way. So if you got like one Pokemon type for the whole thing,
that's true. You're gonna be taken down by what, a water type?
By a ghost, psychic.
Oh yeah.
Flying.
Oh man, I could totally defeat him. Gengar's my jam. Sorry.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but it's very entertaining to listen to. But you think about like any movies, like with a lot of creatures. You think about the newer Planet of the Apes films. You think about even like the Rancor in Star Wars.
Wow.
You always remember what those creatures look like. I mean it's.
I will ask you this. Could it possibly be based on the fact that there is a part 2? I think that sometimes like I'm kind of in the same boat. Like when you're watching Hunger Games, and you're like, and it's part 1 of 3 or 4, however you decide to look at it, and all of a sudden Katniss is hanging on a ledge. It's hard to like feel the tension of like you're never gonna think, oh my god, I think she's gonna die, because you're also thinking she's got 2 more movies. The only time you think she might die, if you haven't read a book, was in that last movie. And so I think we all knew that Thanos was going to succeed to some extent. He's going to succeed regardless. It was more the only real question was going to be the only question I knew going into how this was going to end was, I wonder if he's going to actually manage to like do it in this movie before we move on to the next one. I'm like, obvious. That's the obvious ending. I'm like, but who knows with the Russos what they were going to do?
Well, you raise a really great question. I want to speak to it on 2 levels, because I think it's key to this whole thing.
Yeah. I
mean, on the one hand, I'm not quite talking about what you're talking about, because I'm talking about like the execution of individual scenes. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I think I do really respond to what you're saying about the issue of the 2-part thing, and there is a very different thing between like just like a 2-part story and a sequel. This feels to me like sort of like like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, or something like that, or and to be honest, like I don't like it when any movie does that, any franchise. Like I love Harry Potter. I love the Harry Potter films, and I didn't like it when Harry Potter did that. I kept thinking like you people, what is your problem? Make a 3-hour movie. Make a fucking 3-hour Harry Potter epic like Titanic.
That's just a structural nightmare, man.
But Titanic made $600 million. The two Harry Potter, Part 1, Part 2, those combined didn't even make that much domestically. Like, you could have actually have had like more success if you did the right thing artistically, which was to just make like a big epic movie instead of doing like a twofer. And Mike Newell, who did Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, my favorite of the Potter films, he said something really brilliant about that. He said, people talked about, do we split the Goblet of Fire into 2 films? Well, I disagree. And he said, I always thought that because while there is enough detail for 2 films, there is not enough story for 2 films. And I think that's the problem here with Avengers.
But the one problem is if you've ever read the book, there's a lot of shortcuts he makes that literally just cut things off at the knee. And
but to be honest, I don't care about that. I just want to see a good movie that's compelling in its own right.
I think, I've had this debate with one of my friends for a very long time, specifically the Harry Potter Goblet of Fire debate. Yeah. And I think what we ultimately always come back to is I always go, I think as a fan, you want more you want like everything, you want to see it all on the screen, and you of course you're always going to feel gypped when you cut things off at the knee, and so I feel gypped because I missed out on some things that I really would have liked to have seen. But the things that they also cut out, like the house elf revolt, like these aren't things that could have been like, a lot of things they cut out would have had to like been carried out like without it looking like, ta-da, okay, bye. Like like a Game of Thrones character plot, just like here's the character and now they're gone forever, goodbye. Like it didn't matter those last 3 episodes. So I will say, like, I guess I don't know. I think it's.
I mean, they're different rules. They're different mediums, and you know, you gotta like make a movie like on the movie's terms. I think you know.
Yeah, I think there will always be a debate. I don't think Hunger Games deserve 2 movies. I think Harry Potter didn't deserve 2 movies, maybe. But if you don't want to make a 3.5 hour long film, you got to do 2 movies. Like that. Those are the calls you make. Did The Hobbit need 3 movies?
Absolutely not.
I think Mo took the words right out of my mouth. So I think
that sums it up.
And I think there's just a toss up, but I think I think this is one of those ones where it will be. It is good that we're getting a 2-parter.
I just saw Lindsay Ellis is doing her videos on the Hobbit movies, and those things were just such a clusterfuck.
Oh, even Peter Jackson more or less admitted it.
Oh, absolutely.
He was like, yeah, I didn't know what happened to it. It's like, yeah,
he said he had planned Lord of the Rings for decades, and he goes, this one, he goes, everyone said I couldn't do it, and then they were like, okay, we need you to do it. He goes, I haven't done any preparing. You guys kept telling me someone else. I was just gonna have to pony up the money for this and give like creative input.
No, what happened was that they brought in Guillermo del Toro, and he did like 18 months pre-production on the Hobbit movies, and then he showed Warner Bros. And they were like, no, we want it to be more like Lord of the Rings, and they kicked him off, and they brought in Peter Jackson because otherwise they were going to move the production out of New Zealand. And Peter Jackson didn't want that, so he came in, and then late in the game they said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to cut it up from 2 movies into 3." It's
either way, at least we can all agree that movie's a mess.
Oh, no question, every single one, yeah. We have to move on to the next question, but I do want to say, like, I think with this whole 2-part thing, you're always going to have a little bit of the syndrome of like where it feels like less like a movie and like kind of like more like the. You know, like a 2-part like television episode.
Yeah.
And I do find that to be kind of unsatisfying because I do feel like, you know, like and Harry Potter was like this too. You sort of feel like you're seeing like half an arc, and it's the kind of enough detail for like 2 films, but not necessarily enough story.
I think for me, I'm fine with it being 2 parts. Like you bring it up, like it's like 2-part episode of a TV show. It could be art. I haven't been in the writing room for Marvel Studios, but that seems to be run like a TV show. Kevin Feige is the showrunner. They'll come up with scripts together, or they'll like break story ideas together. They'll pass them off to different directing, writing teams, and they'll have them each make their own episodes. And then the season finale is the team of movies. It's working so far. At least it's working for me. Yeah. And for as far as 2-parter goes, I considering that, again, there's like 40 characters in this movie, I get why they would want that. You know, people have been waiting since 2014 to see the Guardians meet the Avengers, and they do that. They let it breathe. They make it feel real, or not necessarily
organic.
Organic, yes. It's not just they say 2 words to each other and then it's on to fight Thanos.
There was some
legit interaction.
And a lot, yeah, I don't know. I think I think you can't judge a 2-part movie until you've seen both parts. Yeah. And I think, so let's...
I don't know about that, but I feel like you gotta judge every movie on its own terms, you know, like...
There's something to that,
That's true. I agree. I think you can say you didn't like this movie by itself, and maybe you'll see how you feel at the end. Once, like, maybe there will be a payoff that'll at least make it worth it. Because I will agree, actually, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows ends almost over halfway through the book.
Yeah.
So when I realized that after I left the theater, I was like, what are we spending our time with on the next one? Because I also knew how long the next one was going to be, and then they're just like, the battle. I'm like,
yeah, it's like, just like, okay. Literally, like, the last one's just a couple scenes.
And so I was like, okay, well, then I guess we'll just let them run with it. So I think maybe just wait and see. But I think so far, the Russos at the very least created a really well-balanced film that almost broke Joss Whedon with less characters last time.
I want to talk about the ending because as we talked about, we all knew that, or at least suspected that Thanos might, quote unquote, win to some degree, given that, it's a part one, there has to be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us, well, I don't know about you guys, I didn't suspect that he was going to win in the way he does, which is he wipes out half the universe, including Spider-Man, most of the Guardians, T'Challa. I mean, it's a pretty
some nameless Wakandan guards that
It's a
all
very-
look like
it's a very
men.
big
You notice
Marvel
there's a lot of
massacre.
men disappearing. I think maybe one female, like in that one quick shot. I was like, they clearly know their audience.
Well, they got rid of. Let's see. Well, in terms of named characters, there's more male men than women. But Scarlet Witch,
which is a whole nother
Mantis,
Star-Lord.
Maria Hill. I'm just thinking like the female characters that got wiped out by it. And
Scarlet.
I think that's it. I think it's just those three in terms of named female characters.
Well, what did you guys
Yes.
think? What did you make of that ending?
That feel like again. This
How
is.
do you feel about the ending? Is that the question?
Yeah. Okay.
This is what I was talking about. Is that what I was thinking about talking about, but I didn't actually say it.
Who's to say?
Yeah. But the Russos, they can do really distressing stuff, like in Civil War at the end, the fights with Iron Man, Captain America, and Bucky it's a good watch, but it's tough to watch because these are people who are supposed to love each other, but they're just tearing each other apart over these really deep, not necessarily really deep, but at least really traumatic emotional issues.
And conflicting political ideas and convictions.
Yeah. So here we see all these people that we do like dying and just like fading away. I mean, it feels very deliberate that Bucky is the first one we see fade away because he's become so much of a popular character among a lot of the fans, and him and Steve and their relationship is a big part.
Steve lost both his boyfriends in this movie. Did
I
you
know.
notice that?
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Well, because
Falcon too. I know.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
Rhodey was looking for him, couldn't find him. I was like, all Cap's friends. He's literally alone now.
Yeah. So someone else pointed this out. I think it was Movie Bob who said this. Like they could have gone like a little step farther. Just see like nameless civilians in the streets randomly fading away. That would have been.
That would have been even more.
A bigger effect.
We see a little bit of that at the end with Nick Fury and Maria Hill, but that would have been some deep shit.
That would have been. Movie.
But yeah, I think it's effective. Thanos retiring to a space farm is actually from the actual like Infinity Gauntlet comic.
You're kidding, really?
Like that was how
pretty funny.
it ends. Like
That's what he said he wanted to do. I wasn't that surprised.
He fails to in the Gauntlet story, at least in the comic, he fails to take over the universe, and then the hero's being means just like, okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna go to a space farm.
Fine, deal with that yourself.
Whatever floats his boat, I guess.
Yeah.
Max, your thoughts? The ending.
Again, it was kind of expected, which did I think you're right. You really convinced me. There is some tension lacking from this movie. I think at least after a first time, when you're kind of like when you're watching it the first time, you really don't know who's gonna go. And if you're smart, you're walking into this knowing that no one is technically safe. I mean, I think Marvel set that up really well. By only they've announced that we'll get Ant-Man and the Wasp not included in this movie. So
and Ant-Man and that takes place before this.
I have a feel. My honest opinion.
Don't forget about Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then I was like, and Spider-Man.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange has not actually been formally announced. And Bennett and Cumberbatch has said, he goes, nothing's been offered. He goes, but I'm willing to go back, obviously.
And Chris Pratt has said that they're going to start filming Guardians 3 next year.
They did, well, and that was what I was working towards, is what we got is Ant-Man and the Wasp, not in the movie. We got Captain Marvel, set in the 90s. After Infinity War, nothing is officially on the docket or announced aside from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Spider-Man, which you both have also pointed out, technically could be done without Peter Parker.
I was actually joking.
Obviously
they won't do it without Peter Parker.
But I
They
mean,
won't.
it technically could have been done.
Technically.
And then you got Guardians of the Galaxy, which I mean, as we've also pointed out, technically right now, Rocket's the only living one left.
And Nebula, they could do just those two.
Who's to say, other than obviously Chris Pratt has announced that he's filming something, so, but even then, we still don't really know who's coming back. We don't know if Gamora is really gone forever, although she had to trade her life for the Soul Stone. I have a feeling that's probably a harder one to fix than you can with the Time Stone. So,
James Gunn was an executive producer on Infinity War. I don't believe for a second that he would let someone kill Gamora off, not even in a Guardians movie. Like, no way.
And that's
no
true.
Way.
And so I think...
But this feels like the peak of her story arc. Like, that's what...
I was sad to see Gamora go. I didn't want her to go, and I would love to see her come back, but I'm also, like, at this point, I've resigned myself, like, if she doesn't come back, I'm prepared emotionally for it as much as I can be. But, so what I will say is, going into this, when he goes... My plan is to wipe out half the universe when the movie ends and he snaps his finger.
Why does your Thanos sound like Stan Lee?
Because it's a great movie! No, he called it a show because he's old. Old people call movies shows all the time. I love that show.
I went to see that show.
We went and saw that show, Iron Man's.
By the way, this was a good Stan Lee cameo. Just the line.
This was good.
Just real quick, right off the bat.
You kids have never seen a spaceship before. It's like, oh yeah, it's... Avengers still happened in this universe.
Yeah,
and Yondu and his space pirates have been harvesting people from around the world. They definitely have been to Earth at least once.
So going into it, yeah, I guess there was some missing tension, and the tension they try to build within it is minimal. I think most of my tension came from just more of I don't know who's safe. But by the ending, I loved it. But what I really loved about it the most was. I was like, he has the fucking Time Stone. He's just gonna bring Vision back, and then he's like, oh, good job, Time Stone. And I was like, okay, cool. So this is consistent with the way I was thinking. And what I really liked is as people faded away, there was no score, and when the credits started up, nothing. I loved watching Thanos just kind of like, he's like, all right, I'm done. I said I was gonna wipe out half the universe. I was gonna go watch the sunset, and I think he realizes that, like, that line. I really liked the line. She goes, what did it cost? He goes, everything. And I think it does add a little toll to his soul. And I think it's nice to know that maybe he isn't happy with what he's doing, but it's what he thinks is right. And that's what will make him a compelling character. Again, not a deep character, but at least his reasoning isn't, I'm going to do bad things for the sake of bad things. He does it because he thinks he's right. And then that last, and then just the last little bit with Maria Hill, you really get an idea how long Thanos is on there, because she goes, we just got a reading, Thanos, it's the reading of Thanos on Earth. How can you tell? Because less than a minute later, a helicopter crashes and people are disappearing, which means between when Thanos gets to Earth and when he snaps his fingers, is less than a minute. I think it's really exciting to analyze how much time is actually passing in this world. It feels so long and so big. It feels weeks long. So I love the ending, and I think the score not playing anything right at that beginning part was beautiful. So I appreciated it a lot. It was a good part one to end on.
Yeah.
The ending. Oh, the ending.
Why must you always make me go before your bad reviews? I'm like, let me just give a glowing review over Josh Brolin, and then you come in and you're like, let me tell you, I hated Josh Brolin.
We'll shake up the order on the next question. I despise this ending. It made me roll my eyes. I mean, like that moment when, Peter Parker's like, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. And it's like, you're not gonna fucking go, kid. Spider-Man Homecoming 2 starts shooting in months with Tom Holland. We know that. It's like, I felt it was so cheap, messing with our emotions uselessly to bring these characters back. This is the definition of lazy storytelling, They did it to, pull at the heartstrings, but they didn't have the conviction to, really pull them in an honest way. If you want to really kill characters, if you want to do it in a meaningful way, if you want the audience to really believe in it and reward their emotional investment, kill someone whose contract is just about up. Kill Iron Man. Actually go all the way, Yes, but I mean, it's like, that would be one way to give this ending some real emotional weight. I'm not saying that's the best way. I'm not saying that's what I wanted, but I felt like I was being played. And, with these movies, you're always being worked. Any movie is going to manipulate you. But, you know, a good movie doesn't make you feel it. A good movie works on you in a way that, like, you don't see the puppeteer pulling the strings. I saw every string, you know? I mean, it's like, you know, of course Black Panther's coming back. Of course all the Guardians are coming back. It's like, I can't believe in it emotionally, and that's why it's like, I could tell, like, you know, that we're supposed to feel sad, that it's supposed to be a tragic moment, but it's like, I felt like, you know, someone was shouting in my face, like, you know, feel, feel, feel. But how can I feel when the stakes are so low? You know, I remember, like, one thing, like, you brought up something interesting a while back, Mo, which was that, like, I was talking about franchises ending, and you said, like, you really like it when, like, franchises ending. And it's like, and I said, well, and I actually hadn't, really thought about that until, like you in that way until you pointed out, and I was thinking about this. I was saying, like, yeah, I do like it when they end, because I feel like any great work of art, you know, and not just great, but like entertaining, you know, moving, exciting, has to acknowledge mortality in some way. And I kind of feel like everyone in this movie, at the end of the day, I mean, we can argue about, like, you know, the semantics of it, but for me personally, I feel like this is a universe where everyone is untouchable, you know, and it's sort of like, you know, you get like the X-Men thing, like with Phoenix, like, you know, okay, yes, like it's a little bit weird, like seeing the X-Men grieve, you know, when we know Jean Grey is going to come back, you know, in both the films and the comics, but then again, it's like, well, she's going to come back as Phoenix. We know, like, we're like losing her in a certain way. It is the death of Jean Grey to a degree, so like the grief does, in a sense, again, in both the comics and, you know, the film, it does feel earned. And this, it's like, you know, you're not killing Doctor Strange. I mean, you know, with the money Doctor Strange made, they're doing Doctor Strange too. I mean, we may not know it for sure, but we know it.
The only reason I was trying to stop you was because before you went on a giant tirade, I wanted to let you know that Tom Holland ad-libbed that, which means the only person who made that choice was Tom Holland. So which means,
but you know what?
I'm trying to let you direct your anger in the right place, which was not at the writers, at a person who decided to make a line. And
I don't care whose idea it was. It was a shit idea.
Well,
you know, it doesn't matter like whose idea it was. A bad idea is a bad idea. Like, you know, like, okay, you know, like the Russos or the writers weren't manipulating my emotions cheaply and, you know, pointlessly, then Tom Holland was, you know, like, I'll blame the kid, it's fine, you know, although I thought he was great in The Lost City of Zed, so
but if you're also going to go with this logic, you know that there's a part 2, knowing that you are going to see some characters die who are just going to come back, that they can't just be like, okay, we're not going to make you feel anything for these people at all before we kill them. They're going to have to make you feel something.
Again, that's why there shouldn't be a part 2. It should be just one long movie, so it's a complete, like, story that engages you emotionally instead of splitting it up at a point where it's just half a story.
But I'm kind of excited because this is the thing, is you don't really know. I mean, sure.
I think you do.
I think
you do.
But that's the thing.
You may not know officially, but we know. We
but
know
then you can go with that logic with anything, which is that in any comic book universe, which character hasn't died who hasn't already come back, which means technically anyone who dies really doesn't matter, which means you shouldn't get upset over the fact that because it always exists in some way. Like, sure, I'm prepared for Chris Evans to die in the next movie, and I'm also way more prepared for him to never come back. He seems tired, and I get it. But you know, and I can only hope that they'll do the death right.
Yes.
But you can't be angry with the fact that they're like, that Chris Evans' contract is over, and now he dies, so we all saw it coming. Like, otherwise it's like, well, then don't see the movie. It's just going to make you mad that you're going to see a bunch of characters die that it doesn't matter with.
But you're talking about comics, you're talking about movies, you know, like, the rules of those two art forms are just so radically different. You know, like a comic book is, you know, it's understood that maybe it'll go on and on for, you know, even like 100 years, and we kind of expect that there are going to be different iterations of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, if he gets his, you know, identity revealed like he did in the comic book Civil War, it's like, okay, you know, maybe that's not going to stick. But it's just, I feel like the great thing about movies is that they can give you, like, the sting of, like, something really truly at risk. You know, like, I mean, you think about, like, you know, like something like Fury Road, you know. I mean, I believe those people really could die. I feared for their lives, for their souls. And if you know, if that's not at stake, then it's like, you know, I just can't invest emotionally, because, you know, it's like, yes, you know, certainly in a lot of these movies we know a happy ending is assured, but it's like the machinery has gotta work on you. It's gotta, make you feel like there's something truly at stake, and I just didn't feel that at the end of the day.
I do agree to some degree. On the one hand, I get the sense that it's like, what we talked about, the people who were killed by turning to dust, a lot of them are probably going to come back. We're probably going to get, at the very least, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange back, and the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about a lot of them. I don't know if we'll get Sam Wilson or Bucky Barnes back. I don't know if we'll get Nick Fury and Maria Hill back. I don't know if we'll get Scarlet Witch back.
Scarlet Witch is a real good one. You could technically not bring her back because she's so powerful she could come back in another way.
That's true.
Yeah, but it's and that's again the flaw in the 2-part movie is that once we get done with whatever the next Avengers movie is, then it's just going to be okay. Did these deaths matter? Did they have the sting that they were supposed to, or were we tricked? Did they try to pull the wool over our eyes? And I get that. I get that frustration. That's the risk of living in the 21st century blockbuster scene, is that everything is planned out, everything is talked about. Granted, they haven't announced the next slate of Avengers movie, and we're coming up on that pretty soon. But still, I get that. At the same time, running completely counter to everything I just said, there was Paul Cornell, comic book writer, fantastic, funny dude. Read his stuff if you can. He wrote The Death of Wolverine, which is a recent story, and he was giving an interview, and he was talking about no one stays dead in comics. Wolverine's going to come back in a few years, and by now he is back. They're doing the search for Wolverine in Marvel right now. And Paul Cornell talks about it, is that pointing out that no one in comics stays dead is like watching the Muppets and pointing out that they're all puppets. It's missing the forest for the trees. It's not real, and it kind of just makes up its own rules. But can you still be emotionally invested in it?
That's a good point.
So, I know that these characters are going to come back. I absolutely do. But there is something heart-stopping when T'Challa turns into dust
in front of
in front of
Okoye.
In front of Okoye, there is something to M'Baku seeing all his people just fade away.
And also, I know you said that you don't like the Tony Stark Spider-Man connection.
Yes.
But if this is the thing, for any emotional connection on that planet, that's the only one that actually makes sense. He just met Doctor Strange, which they just clearly don't like them. And with Tony Stark and Tom Holland, they have the backstory with Homecoming, which is obvious why Tony Stark played such a bigger role in Homecoming. And then there's the Guardians, who he just met and he thinks they're a bunch of assholes. He can't even round them up for a single plan. So I will say, I think I agree with you that it does kind of feel like emotional manipulation. Tom Holland made a call on a line that the directors and some editors all deemed perfectly fine. And I could see why you would feel so betrayed. So I respect your feeling there. But also, you gotta go, this is the only place that emotional connection can be made. Maybe it didn't work, but I think that was the only way it was ever gonna come, because
I feel like you don't get points for effort, though. It's movie making. It's either
okay.
How
about this? Maybe you're not
know?
Getting points, but it's a swing and a miss for you. For me, I'm perfectly fine with it, because now he's also gone, and I'm actually more. I'm honestly, after it was like the shock of I've lost all these characters, I was more like, okay, now where is everyone left? And I'm more excited that Iron Man is trapped on a planet with Nebula and no one else.
And it's
so exciting.
Legit, I get chills thinking about this moment. Is Doctor Strange saying it was the only way?
Yeah, we don't know what he means.
That is another problem for me, because it's like, that to me means well, Doctor Strange knows the future, so we know things are ultimately going in a good direction. It's like, no, you have him. You have him say that. It's like you cheapen it.
But I think Mo's right. I think a lot of people have brought up. They're like, it's okay. Clearly, Doctor Strange, when he talked about there's only one way this could work out, is he's doing it. He's put it into effect.
And he does it by doing something stupid.
But and they're like the answer's so obviously there. But I think Mo brings up the point, which is like, sure, maybe we are all clearly aware that Doctor Strange does what he does because it's the right move, and it ultimately will work out the best way possible. But now where do we go from here? And technically, he saw over 10 million possibilities. There's only so many things he can he can control. He knows the possibility that he has to choose is the one where he won't be there to control it. So he's kind of going off. He's going on without faith of, he goes, I have to give him this. I'm going to die. Let's hope this works out. And I think so. And
I think it makes it too easy. I think it's too reassuring. I think it takes like a little bit of the risk.
I feel like you gotta at some point acknowledge like there is a chance, because
there's a hope.
Because otherwise it just feels like.
But it already feels so foreordained that they're going to win.
But then any answer they come up with just feels like BS. Like it, I don't know. It's so weird with this stuff. Like, someone described this online so well. It's that the Infinity Gauntlet both immediately raises the stakes and then lowers them dramatically.
Yes.
Because you can do anything and you can undo anything.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. I mean, but I want to backtrack a bit, because you brought up some really interesting stuff, Mo. About what Paul Cornell said. About kind of like 21st century blockbusters in general, and I think it's interesting to ponder. That's a fair point. Kind of that no one stays dead in comics. Well, that is like kind of part of the thing. Yeah. But I do think the real question is like if they die and come back, do they do it in a way that is meaningful, that is engaging. I think the Phoenix thing, is an example of like, how you do that and you sort of like honor the loss that the audience feels and make the stakes feel real. Obviously The Last Stand botched that, but that's another story. But at least in the comics, it works out, and you then you don't like toy with people's emotions in a way that feels, to my mind, disingenuous. And also kind of like what you're talking about. I think it's an interesting point. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, there is so much planning in blockbusters. These movies are doing a lot of planning. The
amount of money that goes in, they better be planning.
Well, DC is, God help them, trying to plan.
They're trying to plan, and look how trying to plan works.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
no, they're planning. It's just not a good plan.
It's not a good plan.
It's a bad plan.
But at the same time, aren't the best blockbusters the ones that kind of leave a little bit up to chance? Like, you look at like Gravity. That was a movie that was a mess. That was in post-production forever, and like they struggled to work that out. Like that plan had to adjust, had to change, had to and
you look at pre-production for a long time too.
You look at Fury Road. That was a movie that again they were reshooting stuff. They have bad test screenings. Or like even Wonder Woman, which is a part of this universe, but Patty Jenkins was like hey, I'm doing my own thing. Okay, we can reference, Wayne Enterprises, but we're not going to see Ben Affleck. This is like a story told on its own terms. It doesn't have to fit into the cog of, it has to have these Easter eggs to set up from, Justice League, even if it takes us out of the dream. It's like, no, it can just be a good story with a beginning, a middle, and end, and that's where I think the real gems come from.
Well, I think we're just gonna, in the best instances, you're just gonna have to wait to see if you get that emotional payoff, which you hate that you have to wait, and I get that. But also, if you don't want that, I think you can't have the fireworks spectacle that is Infinity War without doing what they've had to do, which is announce everything ahead of time. And also people be like, oh, I'm signed up for 10 movies. And then you do the math and you're like, oh, they got 3 more movies after this. Like, you can take away the mystery that way. But at the same time, and what would be shocking is, and you're right, there's things like Ant-Man or Incredible Hulk, Thor, literally any of these other Marvel movies where no one's specifically announced to be in the next movie. Maybe it's their first time out. You're like, I'm not sure who's going to die. The main character's probably not going to die, but what about these side characters? There are mysteries. But at the same time, you don't get the spectacle in the show that is Infinity War. So it's a give and a take. Is to know that you're getting a part 2 means that you're not going to feel as scared or as sad as you possibly could be that first time watching through. But then again, who knows? Maybe we'll lose some characters in part 2 that won't come back for part 1, that we lose in part 1, that will make that death mean a little bit more, just in hindsight. Kind of like how I went and saw Civil War, and I thought it was kind of messy. and a little lackluster. And then I rewatched again and I was like, actually, this movie's really good, and I feel bad that I waited this long to give it a second chance.
There's also, I feel like you talk about like blockbusters that take risks. This does feel like a risk. This does feel like, or as much as a risk you can take with the Mary Marvel marching machine.
Yeah.
But it's like we're gonna take these popular characters and we're gonna get rid of them, and you guys gotta trust us. We're gonna do something with it. And remember, these are movies pitched at kids, so these are I'm sure there's definitely some awareness that there's gonna be more Avengers movies, but for a kid to
like
watch
an 8-year-old?
To watch Spider-Man die, to watch Black Panther die, to watch all these people just fade away, that's fucking traumatizing.
I don't know though. I think I mean that same kid can Google Spider-Man. It's like Spider-Man Homecoming 2 shooting in a couple months.
But maybe there's a kid whose parents just take him to the Marvel movies. They don't really understand how the comics work. Imagine taking your kid to Infinity War because you've taken them to everything else, and then their favorite superhero maybe was Spider-Man or any of the Guardians of the Galaxy just kind of dissolve, and they go, they're gone forever, they're never coming back, and then the parent turning to the parent going, Mom, Dad, Drax is dead. And you as a parent probably can't go, I'm sure he's fine. The best you can do is, but the actor's alive, which means nothing to an 8-year-old.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. People involved with the Star Wars prequels, including George Lucas, when those films are criticized, they'll say lighten up, they're for kids. It's like, the truth is, I think that argument is kids have lower standards.
I think that's. I agree that there's.
They don't have their own money. They don't know.
I agree that there's something to using the argument "it's for kids" as kind of shorthand to just dismiss complaints. That's kind of bullshit. But at the same time, it bugs the hell out of me when people criticize something that's made for kids because it is made for kids. We've had a few Spider-Man cartoons or a few Batman cartoons that are aimed at a younger demographic, and there's 20-something comic book nerds who are pissed off because it's too kid stuff. It's yes,
because it's on Cartoon Network.
It is not for you. You can enjoy it. If you don't, that's fine, but it was not made for you, and that just gets into my other issues of entitlement in the fan community.
Yeah,
but
I think. I would argue that the truly great kid stuff is sort of ageless. I feel honestly, I feel like Wallace and Gromit is as much for me as it is for some 4-year-old because I still get a lot of meaning out of it.
And also, Marvel knows that they're not making $650 million worldwide on opening weekend because of the children. It's because of a lot of teenagers and a lot of adults.
Well,
one adult went and saw it 3 times opening weekend, so that I know of. I wonder who that idiot was.
It's because of everybody, really. It's
so your argument.
Thing,
so your argument does have some validation to it. They're not.
Well, on that lovely note, you had another question. Right?
Actually, I have 2 that we kind of brought one up real quick. Is what was the biggest what the fuck moment for you guys? Mine was Red Skull coming back.
Oh yeah.
That was the one thing that actually shocked comic book nerds and casual viewers alike.
It made no goddamn sense, but I was glad to see him.
That was great because everyone always I always loved the argument. They're like, Red Skull's dead. Maybe he's dead. And they're like, and that I think it was a nice twist because I went and saw it with my best friend, and so he's like. When you see him floating in the Grim Reaper outfit, Thanos originally, to get the Soul Stone, he is to kill these people to impress Death himself to give up the Soul Stone. So to have it not be Death, but have it look like the Grim Reaper for a good minute and a half, and then be like, "Psych, bitches, it's Red Skull." It was just to hear the people. I heard one guy just behind me quietly go, "Oh fuck!"
Literally, when I saw it, I was just like, "The fuck."
What a throwback to Phase 1. That was
hashtag Throwback Thursday.
It was.
That was such a WTF moment that I actually, unfortunately, it got spoiled for me before I went in. Even though it got spoiled for me, it was such a WTF moment that when I saw it, I was, even knowing it, I was like, wait, what?
Wait,
you're
now?
I knew Red Skull was coming back, but how did he even get to this planet? Like, I was like,
so
it's space bullshit.
Yeah, space.
I touched the space thing. It took me to a place in space. And
Space.
I'm stuck here. Also immortal, kinda, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you guys are just gonna leave me here.
So what does he do now that he's not guarding the Soul Stone?
Was he really guarding it before? He just kind of like he just kind of seemed like a tutorial guy. Like, to get the Soul Stone, you have to kill someone you really love.
Does he have Netflix up there? Is he just gonna catch up on House of Cards or what?
He's like, oh, thank God, I can finally do all those things now that my job's done. He doesn't explain, like, they didn't bring him back. They're just like, he woke up, everything had melted, and that was it.
He's just gonna wander around space.
Space skull.
Okay,
for me, like, biggest WTF, I guess. I knew Peter Dinklage was gonna be in the movie. I didn't know
As a dwarf.
I didn't know he was gonna be giant.
I love that part. Like, oh shit!
Oh shit! It's Giant Dinklage.
He did well. He did very well.
He always does.
That was good. I'm excited to see him come back in part 2.
Yeah.
So I got a WTF moment, and this brings me back to the biggest plot hole.
Yes.
Y'all remember the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming? I take it.
Yes.
Which
Aunt May finds out.
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
And they never bring that up again.
And they never bring that up in this, and so that brings me to either two conclusions. Either off camera, Aunt May says, "Whatever, I'm cool. You're a teenager. I'm okay with you going off and fighting crime," or Infinity War takes place some like in between two scenes in Spider-Man
I don't think that happened. I mean, doesn't Aunt May like regularly find out in the comics that Peter Parker
It'll
is
happen.
No. I mean,
it's happened before.
But here's, I remember this goes back to a thing when J. Michael Straczynski was the writer who once and for all had Aunt May figure out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and in J. Michael Straczynski's last issue, they had a bunch of quotes from people, praising him. One was from Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige said, "The moment when Aunt May finds out he's Spider-Man is my favorite moment in all of Spider-Man comics. I promise I'll bring it to the screen one day." And so it's kind of funny that, first of all, that they didn't bring it to the screen in like a meaningful way. They brought it for like an F-bomb joke.
Well, like more like a coda.
Yeah, and also, and not only that, but like in the next movie, it's like, oh, like this is weird. Like, so we're just not gonna worry about that, because like you have to think like Aunt May will be like, what the hell? I am not letting you like leave the house until you give this up. Who knows?
Kid. Maybe we'll find out in this next. Maybe when the next Spider-Man comes out, or when they announce it, they'll actually announce that it takes place between Infinity War and Homecoming. And maybe we'll get that all set up.
Again, we got 40 characters in this movie. We can't do every supporting character, man.
Yeah, I was like.
I mean, that's another problem. I think there's too many characters.
Well, and also,
but also that's the first explanation I've heard that like actually makes sense of what I think is a truly like mind-numbingly awful plot. But like I think like, you know what, that like that would actually kind of like tie things off better, because then you then you can like have it be before Infinity War, so you don't have to deal with like the fallout, and then you can actually like do that emotional moment of justice, and instead of just having it be an F-bomb joke.
But also, who knows? Have you ever noticed that Tony Stark is constantly like running off away from Pepper and then immediately getting into trouble? And have you noticed that Pepper only calls after it's done? Like, maybe it's like she was like, I can't call him now. He's like clearly fighting someone. I was thinking, well, maybe Aunt May, like, how would Aunt May call him? Like, but I was like, that suit obviously has a phone. We saw it, and I was like, but he does quickly kind of get whisked out into space where not even Friday works for Iron Man, which is really cool because he's stranded on a planet without his Jarvis replacement, and on Earth, his real Jarvis is also dead. So yeah,
I feel like Vision's gonna come back.
I did not expect that one. When you mentioned a plot hole you were gonna bring later, I was expecting something a little more bombshell. But I'll take what I can get.
It feels like less of a plot hole and more of an oversight.
More like a question from Ben. Like, wait a second.
It was so weird, because it's like, okay, this is a cinematic universe. The fun of it is that like these movies are supposed to connect. So why is it that like the connections are like making things more confusing for me. Like I thought there was a little bit of irony in that.
Yeah. And then my next question for you is, I'll give you a little just prologue. Is what do you think's next? I was talking to someone before this. I watched the teaser trailer they released like back in February, the one that was like a minute long.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like just a small trailer. And then I didn't watch anything else after that. I've actively avoided all promo materials for this.
You guys are so disciplined about that kind of thing. I am like so weak. Like
there are like any article.
I shoot it all into my veins.
Any article where it's like, hey, listen to what Tony Stark drops. Like the only one is I think we should be nervous that the Russo brothers have yet to announce the title for the second one. So I told
which is supposedly a big spoiler, and it's not Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, and so I guess my the best example is I told someone I wasn't watching any of the stuff, and everyone was actively helping me make sure that I didn't. Nobody sent me any videos. Nobody sent me any theory things. Nobody, like, if a YouTube video pulled up a trailer, I would close the video and retry and hope for a different one. And then afterwards, someone's like, well, how do you feel about theory videos? Like, are you going to avoid those?
Mm-hmm.
And I said no, because quite honestly, this is the thing is, we have no idea. And as we've also pointed out before, we don't really know. We know what's announced, kind of, but we don't really know where that's going to fall in the timeline.
Yeah.
How, really, if just because there's another movie coming, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that they are, that everyone's coming back, like, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy. We don't really know. So my question, so I'm like, honestly, theorize away. I was like, send me whatever you want, because honestly, we have comics to work off of. You could just use movie logic, but also they've gone off book plenty of times. So really, what do you hope for the next movie? What do you think might happen? Do you have any theories? Like, what do you think?
I do have a theory.
So I'll open it up to you guys.
I mean, I honestly I remember James Cameron saying being the jerk that he is, he's like, I hope people get Avenger fatigue soon.
They're gonna get tired.
And I was like, and I thought, Jim, I've had Avenger fatigue since May 2012.
And yet I'm still giving them my money.
No, movie passes.
Oh boy.
And by the way, I'm a critic. I have a duty, Max. You of all people should understand. I'm enlightening the public and saving culture. But
you're a real monuments man, Ben.
Exactly. I thank you. But despite my misgivings about the whole Marvel Studios thing and the Avengers thing, one thing that I do like is the idea of a team of people who come from different walks of life who don't necessarily make sense together and yet bond together and care about each other and endure these incredible things and our incredible jeopardy and are strengthened because of it. And there is a real possibility, I think, with the momentary, I think momentary, wiping out of all these other characters. Like, you can just kind of concentrate on sort of the characters that the Avengers films began with. Just make sort of a team movie about the Hulk, about Iron Man, about Captain America, about Black Widow, about Thor, and just tell a great friendship story about how they mend these broken bonds left over from Civil War and
a real Pitch Perfect 3 moment.
Yeah. I think there's real emotional potential in that, and I think one of the things that was a little bothersome to me from Infinity War is there's so many characters and there's so many subplots that every time they cut back to one, it was kind of jarring. Wait, what's going on here? It kind of felt like an episode of Friends, A story, B story, C story, but it's well, if it's going back to just this is the story of a team, you don't have to do that anymore. You can tell one complete unified, emotional story, and that's what the Russos did back in The Winter Soldier. I would love it if they would do it again in the next one.
All right, Mo?
I'm excited about Captain Marvel, so there's that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what's coming next, and there's excitement about that. I would like to. There's definitely something to seeing the original, the A-Team, for lack of a better word, coming together again with some disparate elements. You've got Rocket and Nebula are still around. Some of the
War Machine.
War Machine is still around. The other Wakanda natives are still around. and you can tell a story with that. I'd like to see the rest of the world now that half the half the population is gone.
Yeah.
Who's still around? Who do we know that's still around? What happens next? There's something to that. I think this is. I really like what the movie did with Iron Man and Thor in this one with their character development, because it is Thor as more of a grown-up, as someone who's grappling with loss for maybe the first time. Yeah. And
while also being funnier.
But being better. And it's there. I want to see them continue to explore that. Iron Man, meanwhile, he's the futurist. He's the guy who planned for every eventuality. He was the guy he was so terrified of this exact scenario that he created Ultron. What does he do now? Like, he failed.
Yeah.
Almost died failing.
He almost died. This kid who depended on him is dead. Yeah. Where do you go from that? That's what I want to see. And of course, Captain America didn't get much of an arc in this one. I'd like to see where he goes from there.
His beard did, though.
That was that beard.
Arc. That's not an arc. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we'd call it an arc as much as a wet dream, but sure. That man can rock a beard.
Oh yeah.
Better than I had imagined.
So that's what I would like to see. I would like to see just where do we go from here? I want to see where they think they go from there. Where these characters go, because that's what keeps me coming back. I show up for the spectacle. I stay for the people.
That's awesome.
I also want to see what the next slate of Marvel movies is, because again, they haven't announced that yet, because I feel like that would be huge spoilers.
Yeah.
They say they're not going to until after the next Avengers.
Man, that's now if we're talking about restraint, now that's restraint.
But that's trusting your audience. So that's what I would like. That's what I think is coming next in terms of this kind of stuff. There's definitely going to be more focus on Thanos, because again, what did it cost him? Everything. What does he do now? Does he watch Netflix with Red Skull? Does he?
Oh, they're gonna hang out.
Yeah, they're gonna be.
Hey, remember
buddies.
that time I killed my daughter on your planet? Yeah, that was fucked up, man. I didn't think you'd actually do that.
Hey, how did World War II go for the last 70 years on Earth?
I was like, did we win? Kinda. There was a rebellion. But it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, Max, what do you want to see?
What do I want to see?
Or think will happen, either one.
Well, the only real theory I have is honestly with Ant-Man. I think the way I think Ant-Man is going to end is however the conflict resolves, I think Evangeline Lilly and Paul Rudd's character are gonna end up coming back out of it, in the midst of the whole transition. Okay, that's my theory.
What if they did straight up, just for a moment, they do a group shot of the classic Avengers team, the Avengers #1 team, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Ant-Man, Wasp.
And that's exactly why I think
that was the original team.
That was the original team up, and they originally fought Loki, and that's why I honestly think they will end up keeping both alive for that reason. And I think the only reason actually that War Machine is there is because he's technically the only real link to Tony. He's the only one that has a suit that isn't a Tony suit. It's the only one, but is also still connected to Tony. I think that's the main reason that Don Cheadle's there. Also, did anybody think Don Cheadle looked real tired in this movie? He his face is slimmed down. I'm just like, are you okay, buddy? You're getting old and tired, too old to play roadie. So as far as theories for the next movie, I'm honestly, it could go anywhere. It could do anything. I think Mo brings up a great point. It'll be interesting to see what does Thanos do next. I think somebody brought up that there might be a time element involved in these movies. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see the next movie start in the future.
Sure.
And work its way backwards.
Okay,
but those are just my only theories. But yeah, I'm mostly just excited to kind of just let it happen and see what they decide to do with the mess they've made.
Something that just occurred to me is that in one of the more famous comic storylines, there was a storyline called Onslaught and Heroes Reborn, where there was I'm not going to get into Onslaught's backstory because it's dumb and weird, but basically a bunch of heroes died. The Avengers died, Fantastic Four, a bunch of the X-Men, they were dead. And in reality, they were shunted off to another Earth. but everyone thought they were dead. There was a gap in the world. And then the Thunderbolts came. And the story of the Thunderbolts is that there were like 6 new heroes. No one had heard of them. They got great PR. People loved them. They were villains. They were super villains who were masquerading as heroes as a way to gain public support, as to try to establish a foothold.
Is this the thing where Bullseye was pretending to be Hawkeye?
Kinda.
Okay.
It's that this was before that, but this is what led to stuff like that.
Okay, I got you.
What if they do a Thunderbolts thing in the MCU? I would live for that shit,
sounds
man.
kind of
I'm
awesome.
telling you.
That sounds pretty cool.
I think that's a tall order, but that would be an amazing
Now,
tall order to get.
That would be tough to do because they don't have a lot of recurring villains. Like, the only, like, bad guy who's maybe alive at the end of the movie, like, I don't know, is people no one cares about. So, like Batroc, Justin Hammer is still around.
If you go off the TV series, Kingpin.
There's Kingpin in the show, there's Absorbing Man in the show. So it would be a different animal, but I would love to see something like Thunderbolts. I would love to see... we talk about Marvel has a villain problem. This would be an interesting way to address it.
That would be...
It'd be interesting to see, like, a villain team and see, like, what their bonds are like compared to the bonds of the heroes. I mean...
Absolutely.
Maybe the villains have kind of an emotional attachment to each other. I would be curious.
And, like, in Thunderbolts, like, we find, like, some of the heroes are, like... Some of the villains are... They say, I like being a hero better. Like, I spent all this time fighting Spider-Man. I was wasting my life, man. Like, he's just a decent guy who's trying to save the world. I've been that.
And I've just been fucking it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess those were my 2 questions I had for you.
They were great questions.
Yeah.
Shall we wrap it up here?
Yes.
We've gone on, I'd say, like...
We've gone on a journey,
We've gone on, an Infinity War-sized journey.
We've been on an infinite journey.
Yeah, we've been to... I can't remember the planets' names, but...
Any of them.
Vormir, or Valheim... Or just where... I liked it when like, the Guardians, like, it just says, space.
Space! I did love it.
Okay. Favorite joke from the movie.
Oh,
that one.
Joke.
That one?
That was the wittiest one, I thought.
I think for me, I got a few. One of them is just like that, like 10 seconds of Tony Stark being dead quiet as he processes that he has to deal with Peter Quill for the next hour.
Oh my gosh.
There's just the way, like, this is entirely Downey's delivery, but when he's like, "Wong, you're invited to my wedding," flies away.
Yeah. Downey, I think, got some of it. But yeah, I would say probably that was really... Just to hear Tony Stark go silent, but huddle up. What do you mean? They just look so lost. Oh, wait, no. My favorite line, I forgot. My favorite joke is, yeah, we take ass and kick names. And I was like, yeah, sometimes I do too.
No. Where is Gamora? I'll do you one better. Who is Gamora? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
The frustration in his face. I also like the Spidey eyes when he's like, wait, what? Like, it was just, like, no, you can't see his face emotion, but it's in the eyes. And for some reason, the eyes are so comical to me because they're like,
I love that they embrace that. Just with, like, Deadpool and Spider-Man, where they just make the masks move like faces. Because it's like, screw it. It's not realistic, but it really is expressive, and it's funny, and it works. And we don't have to tear Spider-Man's mask off in the final act.
Yeah, it was good. So, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, take ass and kick names.
All right. I think that wraps it up.
Okay.
We've been to the far reaches of space. We've been to Earth. We've survived an apocalypse of half the universe. I think...
yeah, they still have to go to work, whatever.
Somebody gotta sell tickets, man.
Yeah.
People are depressed. They need to go to the movies, Mo.
I guess you guys and everyone who's listening will see you, like, in a month to do this with part 2.
A month?
Or
no,
a year,
in a year to do part 2, and a month for something else.
A month for, I don't know, we're figuring that out.
We'll figure it, yeah.
You'll have to stay tuned and find out. We don't know what we're doing.
We're very much figuring this out as we go along.
Alright, well, if you like this podcast, and for heaven's sake, why wouldn't you? Please click thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at T.H.O Movie Reviews, And please check out all the great reviews and content we have at thomoviereviews.wordpress.com. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson. I'm here with Mo Shaunette. I'm here with Maxwell Meyers. And from all of us here at the Healthy Orange Movie Reviews, T.H.O. Movie Reviews.
Almost had it.
Yeah, we may not be able to save film criticism, but you can be damn sure we're going to avenge it.
Good job, Rabbit.
Nerd. You fucking nerd.